Right, welcome everybody. We're talking about Kromek Group today, who reported their interim results this week. It's been a good week for the business. The shares are up about 20%. Kromek is listed on the AIM. Its ticker is KMK, and its market cap is probably around £55 million at the moment. There's been a lot of interest in the business today and this week in the comments that they were making, not just about past results in a period that was obviously intensely influenced by COVID and the difficulties that presented in transacting business. But despite all that, revenues only fell 14%. The interest has come in the update on current trading, which is improving, which we're all very glad to hear, and particularly news on progress on their development of a pathogen detector, a biological threat detector, which is moving rapidly towards availability for detecting COVID and mutations thereof, which is incredibly topical and of great concern to everybody on the planet. Now, who is better to tell us all about this than the founder and the CEO of Kromek? So we're delighted to welcome back Dr. Arnab Basu.
Great to be here, Andy.
Yeah, so how is business for you, Arnab?
Business is, as I said last time when we talked, that we were seeing trends of business coming back to a sense of normality. I am pleased to say that has continued. So we ended the period that we reported earlier this week quite strongly, given that the first 4 months or 5 months of the period was right in the middle of the pandemic, and so we were pleased to report a result of £4.6 million revenue, and that trend of business returning to normality is really driven by demands from our customers and the product shipments that we are seeing. So I'm pleased to say, that trend is continuing, and we are starting to get some forward-looking visibility again, which is really good news. So,
yeah, delighted to hear that. Now, I've already given you a bit of a large build-up for the airborne pathogen detector. Now, there's a bit of a long history that preceded the pandemic by a couple of years. So perhaps you could start by giving an introduction why the American Defense Authority engaged with you back in 2018, and then build up to what is happening now and why now the UK government is also getting involved in providing you with financial assistance to deliver a product that is going to be crucial alongside vaccines in controlling this terrible disease and other potential pandemics in the future.
Sure. This program started in December 2018, well before the COVID days, if I may say so. This was a $2 million contract that was awarded to us by DARPA, which is an agency of the Department of Defense in the United States. And the aim was very much to add a biological detection system within the Sigma network, which is a network for building up a heat map of radiation as an early warning system to protect large urban areas and cities as like. We, of course, had a very successful stint under the Sigma program with DARPA. And as a result, I think we were awarded this program to develop a unique pathogen detection system, which samples air on a continuous basis and analyzes that air for all of its pathogenic content, bacteria and virus. And this, the objective was to have this system run completely autonomously without any expertise available on site. But also these would be, mounted on regular vehicles like buses or emergency vehicles, and the aim is that these vehicles would be going around cities or places that the protection is needed, and continuous air sampling and analysis The data would be fed into the Sigma network, which can then act as an alarm system if some bio-based threat is detected. The aim was very much for these to be used as early detection systems for threats from bioterrorism. Now, we worked diligently through 2019 and early part of 2020. And as you know, we were awarded a further $5.2 million contract in May 2020, which we came to the market and updated the market, and the development continued. So there was quite an intense period of technology development, which is still continuing, but the period under reporting and the majority of 2020, we built up almost a new team to deliver this program. We partnered with some premier institutions in the country, in the UK, and also started to focus our efforts on a more immediate problem that exists, which is, of course, COVID detection in air. Nothing of that capability exists today. There's not really any system that is able to operate in open air or in buildings which can sample air and autonomously provide information about COVID. So this is a unique capability we are building. And the COVID-19 detection system will be ready for piloting from March onwards. We are undergoing the productization and the testing, and this has been a huge effort from the team over the last 12 months or so to really bring this to this stage. Going forward, of course, the overall aim of the original DARPA program, which still remains the aim, is, of course, for this system to be able to detect any virus, whether it's mutating, whether it's novel, and which hopefully will bring a capability to the market which may allow governments and so on to build a bioresilience capability it could be a countrywide bioresilience network, which means anything that could be a threat could be detected early, and mitigation strategies could be deployed. So if we just go back 12 months, January 2020, there probably was COVID in the air in the UK, as we are now starting to find out. But we were all blissfully unaware of that. So if such a system is properly used when it's developed, and we aim to have it in a for that agnostic system to be the broad spectrum detection system to be ready by end of this year. If that system is really used as a networked infrastructure, hopefully we will never see another pandemic. So if we had these in 2020, maybe 2020 would have been a very different year.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mentioned the topicality, and of course, just today, the newspapers are leading on. They all seem to attach new strains and mutations with a country's name. So we've got the Brazilian variant, but just to, I suppose, emphasize your point that any pathogen, and therefore certainly any mutation of an identified viral threat should be picked up by this detector.
Yes, that is very much the objective of the overall objective of the DARPA program. It is, and it's just not viral. It's any pathogen, really, bacterial or viral. And what we are doing at the moment is, particularly on the COVID-19, because we now have received some UK government funding and support for the COVID-19 specific program, is going through a series of structured pilots. So we are engaging with industry groups, user groups, where we believe there may be a use for such a system in the short term. We are running workshops and understanding how this capability can be utilized within their operations. Groups such as airports, such as hospitals at the moment, hotels, other industrial and sort of commercial buildings, and many other in segments. But we are focusing on, first of all, understanding how and what is needed and how this capability can be used. So we are running structured workshops with each of these industry groups at the moment. We are coming up with user cases, and then the structured pilots will start from March, and that would, in our we believe, is going to lead to actual deployments. There are industries which are really struggling at the moment, and hopefully this could be one of the things that can help in sort of mitigating some of the challenges that there are. This is not aimed at replacing individual testing. This is much more about augmenting and bringing a capability to really have a monitoring system for large areas, and then hopefully that information can be used very wisely to keep areas safe, keep operations safe and running.
Well, that makes perfect sense. And obviously, it would be unfair and impossible to predict a date for deployment or commercial sales from your point of view. But it does sound like we could all hope for months or within 2021 to see that pilot testing being concluded, decisions made, and as we've seen elsewhere in the medical reaction to containing COVID and treating it, fortunately, ingenuity and sensible political prioritization does show that we can move very quickly. So, and
absolutely.
Yeah. And then probably this is the last question. We'll move on to the rest of the group, but on the pathogen detection, you mentioned the large scales and places like hospitals or hotels or wherever that can be applied. Presumably, it's pretty much real-time information. Is the diagnosis and the gene sequencing all performed in a relatively short period of time, not taking days to draw conclusions from?
No, certainly, the immediate implementation of the COVID-19 solution, we believe that is, the time from sampling to results is something like 20-25 minutes, done on a continuous basis. Some places may want to sample every 5 minutes. Some places may want to sample once in an hour. So it'll depend on individual use cases. But yeah, it is near real time, continuous, autonomous, more importantly. So it can sit somewhere and provide those results remotely somewhere else. So it's a great tool to be implemented in variety of use cases.
All right, fascinating, and fingers crossed for that. So looking at the rest of the group, Kromek's roots are in radiation detection, and that has led you to build core divisions that focus on medical imaging, on nuclear radiation detection and screening. So it seems appropriate to continue with healthcare after what we've just been talking about. How is that market moving? It's always been a market with a very large addressable size, and the very important driver in the economics of healthcare of early detection, saving significant costs for hospitals and other medical enterprises through the lifetime of treatment. How is business there, and how are the larger OEMs that you interact with, let's say, reopening or developing their shipments?
Yes, I mean, the year started off with very little activity, as you can imagine, because most of our customers, which are hospitals and medical groups, were focused on COVID, and as a result, in general, the diagnostic markets really took a big hit. That trend started changing towards the end of the period, so towards the end of last calendar year. and we are starting to see demand picking up, which is really driven by our customers' ability to really start installing systems in hospitals and medical centers and shipping systems, and that is continuing. So let me give you what's happening in the very short term with our existing customers, because as you know, we have a number of multi-year OEM contracts, and particularly one of them, which was a $58 million contract signed in 2019. We are shipping under that contract, and we expect a full normal schedule of shipment at the levels, the contractual levels, to really get there in very short period of time. But at the moment, we're shipping every month. And although the contract is probably running 6 months late, 6 to 8 months late, we are at the right levels where we should be. So that's really a positive development, and we are starting to get good forward-looking visibility as well, which is good. Secondly, we are also seeing our other customers in the medical imaging segment also going through the same process. Starting to create demand, and as a result, our factories are producing detectors and shipping detectors on a monthly basis. There are two development programs I'd just like to highlight, which is going on right now, particularly one that has been going on for nearly 2 years now, which is the low-dose molecular breast imaging, aimed to get in. Actually, that is being done in conjunction with Newcastle upon Tyne Hospital Trust and a OEM customer of ours. That program is really aimed at bringing that SPECT type technology, which is used as a high-end diagnostic tool, the most effective diagnostic tool for detecting breast cancer in women with dense breast tissues, to much more of a screening technology or screening sort of tool. One of the big challenges of the aim of the program, why this is not used as a screening tool, is the dose exposure in the MBI, the current imaging system, is quite high. So we are reducing the dose exposure to the patient by a factor of 10. So it's a big step. The feasibility study is over in that program, and we expect to have the first prototype up and running with our OEM customer towards the middle to end of this year, which then will be ready for clinical validation and introduction to the clinical pathway over time. So that program is running very well. If it's successful, the opportunity for our customer making molecular breast imaging systems will actually increase tenfold, which is again is going to increase our opportunity to supply detectors to our customers. So it's an important program. The second program that we are running is really a little bit of a new area, a development application of our detectors for use in operating rooms, operating theaters for during cancer surgery, doing tissue sort of analysis, what the surgeon is removing from while operating, and doing that in real time. This is being done with a company called Adaptix, and if this is successful, it opens up a new area of application for our detection system. Looking a little bit on the medium to long term, what's going on in the general, our core markets like SPECT and CT. The trends same, as you know, the SPECT market is going through a generational change, going from black and white conventional SPECT into sort of the new technology that is being, which is CZT-based technology, to make SPECT digital, make SPECT color, more accurate, and consequently more efficient. That is CZT-based full spec systems are now available from at least two customers, two vendors. One is GE and the other is Spectrum Dynamics. So this is a full-fledged commercial, transition has already started, and it is, install base is increasing with CZT-based spec. Our detectors are being installed, And so, we feel confident what's going on right now will lead to conversion of other major SPECT players from the traditional systems into CZT-based SPECT, because the technology trend has already started since 2018. More and more SPECT systems has been launched during that period, and our detector shipments are, of course, increasing as a result of that $58 million program. So in general, the trend is towards conversion to CZT. And what CZT does is very simple. It provides better quality of images, which enables clinicians to take better quality of decisions, which ultimately saves lives by having a more efficient way of treating a patient. But ultimately, as you pointed out in your question, it lowers the overall cost of care. So saving lives is one output, which is a fantastic thing to happen. But at the same time, the overall cost of care comes down as well as a result of early detection.
Yeah, a perfect combination. And a variation on the theme of protecting lives is nuclear radiation detection, or what would colloquially be known as the threat of dirty bombs. And here you already have detectors deployed globally through the D3 series. But again, we read here in the UK in the press about commitments by the government for 5 years of more spending on this area. So momentum must again be quite good for you there.
Yes, I mean, again, just as a reminder to the to your audience, this is a series of products we developed under, again, a DARPA program, which was a D3S, as you point out. These are fully network capable detectors, wearable detectors. We expanded that product range throughout the last 18 months or so, and we actually, during the last period, launched 2 products. One is a D3 PRD, which is a more simpler dosimeter type device, and the other is on the other scale end of the spectrum, which is a fully ruggedized, militarized D5 radioisotope identification system. So we now have a very complete product portfolio, which goes from simple dosimeter to network systems to fully ruggedized military grade radioisotope identification system. So we can address the widest possible markets, use models. So places where customers may not want network, we can provide standalone devices. Places where a customer wants network solution to protect an entire city, we have the Sigma offering. Of course, Sigma and the network solution is now protecting critical infrastructure in and around New York and inside New York, which the New Jersey Port Authority sort of released what's going on there in a press article, which was followed up by a DARPA press article. So real life operation 24/7 going on. The system is being sold in over 25 countries now. And we are in quite a lot of strategic procurement programs right now. But one of the questions I'm sure a lot of people have thought about, is nuclear security that important that governments will spend big money? And the reference that you made to UK government's commitment to spend over the next 4 years of nearly £330 million is really an indication of how seriously governments generally take around the world the threat from nuclear terrorism. So yes, we of course have done a lot of work with the UK government on nuclear security, particularly on Sigma and with our detectors. There's quite a lot of detectors in the UK operating right now. And we expect to see scale up of some of those capabilities, and we will play our part, and we expect to see really good returns on that segment. But globally as well, in the United States and Europe and Asia, we are starting to see really a lot of procurement activity. We are part of those procurement activities. Some we have got a very good, strong position, and others we are competing. And I'm sure We will be winning orders, and we will be bringing back news over the next periods, and we remain very confident of delivering on this billion-dollar market.
Good. And then the final division, again, obviously focused on human safety, is the screening division, typically associated with airports. Possibly not the busiest places at this precise moment, but clearly travel will have to return to original levels at some point. What is the background there in terms of regulatory drivers and product development, and are you, or you have seen commercial orders coming through quite lately?
Yes, I mean, this is, of course, a segment everybody knows has been very hard hit by the current pandemic. But what our offering had been is OEM detectors and technologies to be incorporated in third-party baggage screening systems. This is a fully regulated market, so airports can only buy equipment that are certified to certain regulatory standards. Throughout 2018 and 19, new regulatory standards were brought in, and so the baggage screening companies are having to recertify their products, and in a lot of cases introduce new products. Now, there are two ways people have gone about it. One is to bring in a medical CT type systems to aviation security to meet those standards. These are generally quite expensive, generally quite big, heavy, needs renewed infrastructure within airports, and very more expensive to maintain through its overall lifetime. The second approach, which is the approach our customers are taking in this market, is incorporate more intelligent detectors, more intelligent algorithms and techniques and technologies that we are able to offer to achieve the same level of certification. So one of our customers' system got certified last year and achieved the highest level of European regulatory certification. We are starting to see some orders trickling in, even in this market, where our customers are winning some orders in South Asia. We expect a second system to be in the certification process in the next few months. So our development contracts in this market have steadily progressed. So we have generated revenue, but also the technologies that are, the way our customers are now able to offer systems which are meeting regulatory standards are actually very competitive, because they can keep the same architecture. As a consequence, the overall cost is much lower to airports with the same level of certification as those very large and expensive CT scanners. So what we are enabling is a generation of products which are going to be much more affordable for airports to implement and meet those regulatory standards, and hence we believe our customers are going to be successful as the market starts to open up in big way. We are also completing a Department of Homeland Security sponsored program in US, whereby we are adapting one of our medical sort of detector platform into introducing as an add-on to baggage screening systems. This is mainly to really resolve threats that the baggage screening systems are identifying, and so this will automatically resolve some of those threats through very high resolution imaging and a secondary technique. We are starting to really garner some real good OEM interest in this, for adopting this as an add-on to existing baggage screening systems. So again, both threads of those development programs, one as an add-on detector for threat resolution, the other more standard detection and technologies that we are putting into baggage screening system to achieve current regulatory standards. I believe both will pay off, and our customers seems extremely happy, and they are starting to make some inroads in the market. So yes, this is a segment that will take some time to recover, but I believe when they start to open up, budgets will be constrained, and cost-effective solutions will be more competitive and will have hopefully a larger market share compared to others.
Yeah. Well, that's a very comprehensive roundup. Now, as always, plenty of opportunities for Kromek's IP to be applied. Perhaps we can summarize by focusing on the infrastructure of the group, the management of it, and the balance sheets, because in your interim statement, the board was very confident that cash reserves were adequate to execute your plan. And although COVID had affected the first half, you talked about the improving trading conditions, and there's nothing like more revenue to help cash coming through to the bottom level. In the statement, I think the words you were using was that H2 revenues should be significantly higher than in H1. So that points to comfort on cash reserves at the moment.
Yes, I mean, what we are sort of guiding the market at the moment is that the second half revenue would be significantly higher than the first half revenue. We are also stating that we have a sufficiency of cash to carry on, doing business at the current levels, so we can support our business. A couple of areas, to highlight within that really. One is, if you look at the balance sheet, you will see that there was a stock buildup between October 2019 and April 2020. And that was very much in anticipation of increased shipment throughout the 2020 fiscal year. And of course, we were mitigating against the risk of supply chain issues because of COVID and Brexit towards the end of 2019 and beginning of 2020, but then COVID hit us, so we were stuck with quite excess inventory levels at the end of the fiscal year in 2020, in April 2020. Throughout the first half of the year, during the reporting period, we had to pay for that inventory, and so there was a cash consumption on that. But at that inventory is now slowly being burned down as the customer shipments have started, and we will be recovering, turning that inventory into cash. So that's one area that with increased revenue and inventory burning down, we will be converting that into cash, which helps. We also, one thing that I'm sure you and your audience would be keen to hear is and understand what's happening with the AROC write-off that we did at the end of, in the last reporting period, which was a large impairment we took because of uncertainties attached to the timing of our ability to ship to a Chinese customer. That customer relationship is going strong, and we continue to maintain a very robust relationship. As and when travel is permitted, we will expect to start to see some of that AROC to be unwinding. So it's not something that is we keep aside. This is a very active relationship between us and our customer, and we monitor the situation all the time. So that's there is cash to be released from there, and of course there's improved trading means better cash generation as well. So in all of that, we should see that our cash position will not change materially during the second half of the year compared to what we reported for the first half.
Okay. And lastly, as I said, overseeing this, companies evolve and the boards managing them evolve at the same time. But at the moment, you have a new CFO, a new COO, and a new chairman coming in as well. All blessed, it seems, with considerable experience, particularly as far as I can see from a commercial perspective, which again reflects on a maturing R&D into profit generating group. How's the new team knitting together?
Very good. It's one of the. This was a planned transition for Peter. Peter served us extremely well, and actually, Peter remains as my advisor and a very good well-wisher of the business. So one of his aims was to restructure the board to make it fit for the next phase of the Kromek journey. And a couple of key things happened. Uh, you know, we are starting to see real operationally experienced people joining the board and strengthening the board in that way. Barry joining the board brings the US voice on the board, but also years, decades of experience in international business, both commercially and operationally, lately with Danaher. Paul Farker joined us in October as our CFO. His last sort of full-time assignment was a 10-year stint with Sevcon, which he exited very successfully with a 200 million market cap, starting at 25 million market cap. So yes, the board's strengthened, the board's in a place to really take the company forward into the next phase of the development. So we all feel energized and enthused and ready to look forward to the future.
Yeah, well, that was the sentiment coming out of the statement, confidence and optimism. So we wish you all the best for that, Arnab. For people who want to learn more about your technology, there's a lot of information, a lot of videos on your own website, which is www.kromek.com. In terms of third-party analysis, our own site, www.equitydevelopment.co.uk, has a number of pieces of research on Kromek, including one this week. And although it's difficult for anybody with any certainty to speculate about the scale of the opportunity in the airborne pathogen detector, there are some guesstimates made by our analysts there, which are around a $500 million size market opportunity, which I'm sure people will find interesting to look at. Most importantly, Arnab, we wish you the best of luck with those pilots.